Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 109th episode of the Manor Podcast. I'm your co-host, Roger Bodee, joined as always with my best friend and other co-host, Michael Hamilton. Michael, we're back. It's all come full circle. We're what is old is new again. You know what's really is tripping me up? You know what the throwback draft on Magic the Gathering Arena is?
What's the throwback draft on Magic?
Dominaria.
Okay.
I drafted Dominaria today for like the first time in like, I don't know, a decade. Is that how old that set is? Am I that old Manny?
I don't think it's a decade. I think it's like, I guess like 8 years.
I remember grinding that format for like PTQs when those existed. I guess there were still RCQs then too. I think I lost like my win-in Pro Tour invite in that format or something like that. It came out, it's only like 6 years old. Okay, I'm not that old yet.
Right, I overshot with 8. I knew it wasn't that old.
I fell back into it like good old times. It was, I remembered that there was like the stupid 4/5 turtle or whatever, 4/6 turtle with hexproof. And then there's this enchantment on Sarah's wings, and it gives you a creature vigilance and lifelink and flying. And I remember you just put the wings on the turtle and you just win the game. And
you hope they don't edict you and you go to town.
Well, there's lots of tokens floating around, and there's only like one uncommon saga edict, I think, in the whole set.
Really?
It's really safe to go for it. The biggest blowout is like if they have enchantment removal, but you're playing best of one on Arena. Well, I was, so nobody's running enchantment removal, so you just do the thing and you win the game as long as you get it.
Sure.
It's pretty safe.
Sure. So we're talking about Magic today.
Wow. It's Magic the Gathering episode. Who would have thought?
It really does go full circle.
I know we're going to have 2 listeners on this podcast. I know Ben's going to listen to this podcast, and I know Wesley's going to listen to this podcast. So boom, we already got 2 whole listeners on our Magic podcast now.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot of overlap between the Magic and the Flesh and Blood communities. So I expect we'll get more than 2 listeners, but I don't expect this episode to do particularly well. Since we came back, we have not let expectations of view count or numbers really dictate what we talk about. We just talk about the things we want to talk about. And we're playing an Arena Open this weekend. You're planning to go to Atlanta in 5 months or something?
We're getting the band back together. Wesley and Ben are going back to Atlanta, or going to Atlanta to play to it. It's going to be my second time in Atlanta, and I get to redeem myself. Roger Bodee redeemed in Atlanta.
Yeah, your first time in Atlanta was not great. So
yeah, we're not getting into that though. So the Arena Open is Bloomborough Limited, and I didn't know anything about the new. I didn't know what was in Magic Standard at all a week ago, but they announced, what are the new Grand Prix called or whatever?
I don't know.
I sent you the article. You didn't read it?
I skimmed it, or at least read the headline.
Magic Spotlight Series, a very intuitive name that you wouldn't want to bring back the Grand Prix branding that you had for like 2 decades. I don't know why you'd want to do that. You got to call it something new, like Magic Spotlight Series, so everybody remembers it and knows what that name is and can easily identify with it.
Yeah, I think like they don't want to call it Grand Prix because they're not giving out pro points. They're not. Well, I don't know what's different other than that.
And there's no buys, you know. You can get buys to Grand Prix.
Sure. But that's probably for the best.
Yeah. Oh, man, that was so miserable. It was just like the best players in the world just basically just got to like show up, and it's just like, oh, yeah, I got to like sleep in. I win my first 3 rounds, and you only have to like 8-0. So I only have to win 4 rounds to day 2. It was like, I hated that buy system so much.
Yeah.
Or 5 rounds to day 2. I remember just being so defeated as soon as like round 3 would show up, and you're like, I worked hard, I battled for these first 3 rounds, I had close games, and I had a back and forth, and I had to really think, and I've been playing 3 long hours of Magic, and pros are just like, yeah, I just rolled out of bed, and it's like, this doesn't really seem fair.
Yeah, it wasn't, and I think that's why it's probably why they're doing away with that system. Fair. And I think that Flesh and Blood and every other card game I've played since Magic has not had a system where competitors are getting 3 buys in their large open events.
Yeah, that was quite silly.
Yeah, though I think Pokemon does something even more extreme, where like at Worlds, if you get enough points, I think you get to skip all of day one, which is kind of crazy.
That's a lot of buys.
That is a lot of buys. So I said I don't think other games do it, but I think Pokemon actually does. So most games have moved away from that, and Pokemon is just for Worlds. They don't have buys for their like open events.
Fair. Okay. Well, no buys in this weekend's Arena Open, and it's Bloomborough Limited. It's the cute bunny rabbit, mouse, squirrel set.
Otters.
There's some otters. There's some bats and some lizards.
I've been playing a lot of otters.
Otters aren't very good.
They're not?
No. I don't like otters. I like bunny rabbits. I'm a bunny rabbit gamer.
Okay. All the card, there's a lot of cards that like list like 2 to 4 creature types they work on, but there's like 5 to 8 creature types. I don't actually know how many there are. There's more than 4.
Yeah, I know, like they kind of split it so like there's like a friendly grouping of animals and like a maligned grouping of animals. Like rats and bats usually go together, and like bunnies and mice usually go together. Birds kind of chill with everybody. Birds are neutral. Birds just kind of hang out with everyone. Everybody's cool with birds, I guess.
Yeah, and then otters. I like the otters.
Nobody cares about otters. They're not really. They're doing their own thing over there.
Okay.
I guess otters care about otters, but they're otter balls.
What?
Oddballs, otter balls.
Oh, okay.
So you've been playing this format for 2 whole drafts. And I've been playing this whole format for like 4 days minus day, where I drafted some Dominaria. And so we're pretty much experts, I think. So if you want to stop listening to limited resources and forget everything you learned from Louis Scott Vargas and get all your draft information from us, I think that would really behoove you going into this weekend.
Yeah, in all seriousness, if you do play Magic Limited a lot and you have not heard of limited resources, you should check it out. It's a very good resource for limited, believe it or not, from the name.
Mm-hmm.
But first, listen to us talk about it, because we sure know what's going on. Roger said 2 drafts, which is kind of generous. I finished 1 draft and I'm halfway through my 2 games into my second draft on Magic Arena.
Yeah. And you're drafting the worst color. You're drafting blue.
So you told me blue was the worst color, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to draft my pick 1, pack 1. I'm like, ooh, black removal. I'll take that. And then I get past the blue red rare card.
What was your black removal? What was it? Was it the...
I don't remember my first
There's a lot of black removal.
There's a lot of black
There's a lot of removal in Magic these days.
So I think it was Fell. I think that was my pick 1, pack 1 of my first draft.
5 mana instant?
No, it's just 2 mana sorcery, destroy target creatures.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, and
nice
then
and efficient.
I got a few more black removal spells, and then I had the blue bomb, and I was picking up cards of like I got a blue-green rare that looked really, really good. But I had all these black cards. I'm like, that's fine. We'll just play 3 colors. And then as I was drafting the format, I realized there was no mana fixing. So we ended up straight blue black.
There's some mana fixing. There's some common lands that when it enters, you get to name a color.
Yeah, there's Uncharted Haven, uncommon or common tapped land. When it enters, you name 1 color and it just produces that color, right?
Yeah. And then there's also this 1-cost artifact that in TBs, you put any basic land on top of your library and then 1 sacrifice to draw a card.
Yeah. So there is 1 land and 1 mediocre artifact that mana fixes you.
Yeah.
So the artifact basically costs 2 to cantrip and fix your mana, which is not a great deal. The land is good. The land's very good. But the problem is it's so good that the 2-color decks also want it, because it's just like Evolving Wilds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not end up with any mana fixing, and I had to go straight blue-black in my first draft. And my deck ended up really good. I just had all the otter divinations and a bunch of removal spells, and it was great.
Yeah, to be fair, I think this is just a high synergy format overall, it seems like, where you need to really be building the entirety of your deck. Like, you need to be on theme with your core animal group and maybe having some oddball critters here or there, but if you're rabbits, you really want to be going wide on the rabbit thing. If you're frogs, you really want to be blinking. And there's a lot of cards that even when they are monocolored, like they might as well be multicolored. There's it, especially I guess I'm thinking about the frog cards where where's this guy? He's like 3 tree scribe. This is an uncommon. He's 1 in a green, 2/3. Whenever 3 tree scribe or another creature you control leaves the battlefield without dying, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So if you're not blinking things, he's just a 2-mana 2/3, and that's like not very good.
2-mana 2/3 is fine.
It's like okay.
I would happily put a 2-mana 2/3 in basically every deck with no text.
Sure. But then there's like gray ogres and stuff like that. There's like the sticky tongue sentinel, 2 in a green, 3/3 reach. When he enters, return 1 other target permanent you control to its owner's hand. Like, I don't know, like they're fine, right? But like the synergies that you can get in the set are so much higher than just doing things that are like 3-mana 3/3s or like 2-mana 2/3s. You know?
Yeah, just because the floor that the first guy you said is pretty good. I think 2-mana 2/3 being your floor, that doesn't mean you don't want to like push towards trying to unlock what the card can actually do when it's in a supported deck or in a deck that's supporting well.
Yeah. I'm realizing there's still cards in the set that I haven't even seen. That's just pretty crazy. I've played a good amount of drafts, I thought. I guess it takes a long time to see every card in a set. Yeah. Especially at rare.
Yeah. There are a lot of rares, and you aren't going to see them all in draft. That makes sense.
Yeah. I had the board wipe once. That was pretty cool. The Starfall Invocation. That card's pretty good.
I don't know what that card does.
It's 3 white, gift a card, destroy all creatures. If a gift was promised, return a creature card put into your graveyard this way to the battlefield under your control.
Oh, that seems really strong.
Yeah, very good.
Even without the gift part of it, just 5 mana for a Wrath is very good and limited. And the fact that you can give them a card to basically bring back your strongest creature, you get any enter the battlefield triggers again, and even if it doesn't have any like wrathing and getting a 4/4 is worth giving them a card.
Yeah. I will say I think I've drafted every animal archetype at least once.
Every animal archetype?
Yeah, I've definitely done blue-black rats. I've done frogs. I've done mice. I've done rabbits. I've done raccoons. I just finished a raccoons one yesterday. I did not like it was like fine, but my deck felt kind of like mopey overall. Like I didn't feel like I was just kind of like big dumb idiot beaters, and if my beaters somehow got outscaled by the synergistic of other tribes, I guess I just kind of died. So the deck was not very good. I went like 1-3, I think, with raccoons. I was not happy with it.
Yeah, I realized I said 5 to 8 color or animal types. There's just 10. There's 1 for each color pair, it looks like.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think I've done Golgari. Golgari, I think, it's because I think people have picked up that black and green are probably the 2 best colors, so it's hard to get them both open passing to you. Or at least it really hasn't come up in my seat. I feel like I'm usually starting somewhere base white or black or green, and then picking up one of the more tertiary colors a lot.
Sure. I've like I said, I've only done 2 drafts, but I have started with both drafts. I started getting some early black removal and just getting blue rares passed me, and just ending up blue-black.
And apparently I'm very wise. I'm realizing I never built an Izzet deck, but Izzet has the worst win rate of all the color combinations, and it's not close. It's at like 56%. I'm looking on this website.
56% sounds good.
The highest win rate is 61%. So it's got a 6 point, and every other, so blue white has 59%, and then every other color combination has a 60+% win rate.
I assume you're on 17 lands and you're filtering by something specific to get that. I don't know what you're filtering by to get that, but every I was
on traditional draft. Should I go to premier draft?
I don't know. My default
premier draft, it's different. Premier Draft, it's also the worst at 51%. And Blue White's the second worst at 52%. And Celestia's the best at 57. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because in my drafts, I felt like Blue has some very strong both uncommons and commons that I was pretty happy to have. But
I think the only blue cards that really like synergize like more than some of their parts really well are like the frog cards.
okay.
And everything else, like they might be okay individually, but I just don't think they lead to very high highs and like their synergistic ceilings or whatever.
Okay. That makes sense.
Maybe
I
I'm wrong
have
about
definitely
that.
just been like going on raw power level of just like taking like a lot of like instants and sorceries. Like I have both my decks have had multiple copies of the divination and then at least one copy of the mind spiral, the 5-mana draw 3.
That's a
And
good. I
then
like that card.
I've also been getting Daring Wave Rider. I have one in both decks. It's a 6-mana 4/4 that when it enters, you can cast an instant sorcery from your graveyard with cost 4 or less. And both drafts I put it up with black removal and it's worked really well.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of the very similar things in my early drafts where like I was playing like 3 colors, splash in like the mind card that you just talked about.
Mind Spiral.
Mind Spiral. And I was like, yeah, we can just splash this easy. I'll just use my little artifact and grab my island, play my Mind Spiral, whoop, 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 grind. This game's go forever. And then I got to the higher leagues and I'm dying on like turn 6. And I'm like, This format's pretty aggressive, actually.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The best deck I've drafted so far, not close, has been Boros Mice. I had the nuttiest craziest mice deck. It was I think I went 7-0 and my opponents were scooping on like turn 4 in my last 3 matches in a row.
What were you doing?
So I had the multicolor rare mouse. I had.
You're gonna have to give more detail than that.
I know. I'm looking for him. Mabel, heir to Cragflame. He costs 1 red white. Other mice you control get +1/+1. He's a 3/3. When Mabel, heir to Cragflame enters, create Cragflame, a legendary colorless equipment artifact token. With equip, creature gets +1/+1 and has Vigilance, Trample, Haste with equip 2. So
and what's its base stats again? Sorry.
3/3. So it's a 3/3 mouse lord for 1 red white, and you get this sword.
That seems really strong.
Yes. Have you seen this uncommon enchantment? So there's a bunch of like talent series in the set, and there's one called Blacksmith's Talent. It costs 1 red, and when it enters, you create a sword token equipment that where equipped creature gets +1/+1 equip 2. So not very good.
Mm-hmm.
You can level it up, pay 2 in a red. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, you can attach target equipment you control to up to 1 target creature you control. So you get the free target on a mouse by moving this sword around. So that's pretty good. Then level 3, you get 3 red. During your turn, equipped creatures you control have double strike and haste.
That does sound really strong.
You just go Blacksmith's Talent, Mabel. All your mice now have their target benefit and double strike, haste +2/+2, trample, million keywords. And then the icing on the cake was there's the silliest. They also gave an amazing card advantage mouse in white. It is Whisker Veil Forerunner, which costs 3 and a white. So it's like the top end of my curve. It's a 3/4, so 4 mana 3/4. It does the Valiant like all the other mice do. So when the first time it becomes target of a spell and ability you control, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with mana value 3 or less among them and put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put it onto the battlefield, you put it in your hand.
Yeah, that sounds really strong. That's a rare though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just curving out the talent into my Mabel, into my Whisker Veil Forerunner, and my opponents just scooped on like turn before. They were like, "This is ridiculous! Like, what are we doing? This is like a constructed deck, I think."
Sure. Sure. So you think Boros Mice has constructed legs?
I think I was looking at them on MTG Goldfish. I was looking at some standard decks.
Okay.
Because I got to know the standard metagame for Atlanta, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Magic cards have gotten a lot more powerful since back in the day.
Yeah, I feel like such a boomer. I feel like such a boomer, dude. Like, I'm just like, there's this, he's in the Bloomvale too. He's, where's this guy? He's such a cool guy. Thunder Trap Trainer. He's a 1 and a blue. He's a 1/2, and when this creature enters, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land from among them and put them into your hand and put the rest in your bottom of your library in random order. Do you remember Augur Bolas? You remember
that guy was sick.
Yeah, and he has Offspring 4. So that means for 6 mana, you can like double Augur Bolas.
You get a 1/2 and a 1/1.
In the end game, like once you've like when you like need to dig for like specific cards and things like that. So very powerful.
Yeah, you know how I said I've been getting the blue bombs in the drafts. I got one of these guys like 5th pick.
Yeah.
It's been very good. I've offspringed it every time I've cast it.
Yeah. They gave us better Augur Bolas, but they also gave us worse Restoration Angel. There's the bird Salvation Swan for 3 and a white. Flash flying 3/3. When Salvation Swan or another bird you control enters, exile up to 1 target creature you control without flying, returns to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter at the beginning of the next end step.
Yeah, I think the fact that it re-triggers on other birds and you give the flying counter, it makes me think it's not just like strictly worse than Restoration Angel, but losing the 1 point of toughness is
and not being immediate flicker. It's end of turn flicker. Yeah. So I think the whole package is worse than Restoration Angel, but like I built this deck. I built my 4 Thunder Trap Trainer, my 4 Salvation Swan. I'm like, this has to be good enough. I remember 2012. I was casting these cards together, and then you get some more enter the battlefield effects going on in your deck, and then you play in your blue-white controls, and nope. I was dying on like turn 4.
You're missing the Thrag Tusks.
They printed a Thragtusk. So funny that you mentioned Thragtusk. They printed this card.
that was part of the package.
You get Beza the Bounding Spring now instead, which is it's a mythic from Bloomburrow. So you might run into this card at some point if you're unlucky. It costs 2 white. It's a 4/5. When Beza the Bounding Spirit enters, create a treasure token if an opponent has more lands than you. Gain 4 life if an opponent has more life than you. Create 2 1/1 blue fish creature tokens if an opponent has more creatures than you. Draw a card if an opponent has more cards in hand than you.
I've actually seen this card because I have been out of the regular limited streets, but LSV, who you mentioned earlier on Limited Resources, he does these cube draft videos, and I've been watching some of them, and this guy is in the new cube.
I would believe that. He's pretty ridiculous. But then you could also Restoration or Salvation Swan your Bezas, and I was like, this has to be good. Nope.
Maybe it's the surrounding cards that are the issue, you know?
Yeah. They only printed the world's best cancel. I think it's the closest card I've ever seen to Cryptic Command that I think they'll ever print again. Maybe. I don't know. It's not from this set. Let me see. Let me pull it up.
Okay. I probably have no idea what it is if it's not from this set.
It's called 3 Steps Ahead. It was in Outlaws of Thunder Junction. As just a base casting cost of a blue. And it has the spree mechanic. So basically it has all these different modes, and the different modes can be tacked on for extra mana costs.
Okay.
So his first spree is 1 and a blue, counter target spell. So then you add that to his base cost. So you 1 blue, counter target spell, you get a cancel effect. Cool.
Okay.
You can then pay, its second mode is 3 generic resources. Create a token of a copy of target artifact or creature you control. Okay, so like you can go like
4 mana to copy something, or 6 mana for counter and copy.
Yeah, so then it would be 4 blue, copy a thing. And then it's 2 resources, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. So most of the time I've been casting this card, it's been 3 blue, counter target spell, draw 2, discard 1. Very close to Cryptic Command.
That's 5 resources. That's a lot worse than Cryptic Command.
Sure, yeah. But like Cryptic Command's broken at 4. We all know this. But so that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah.
Is Cryptic Command broken? Is it seeing any play in Modern? I think this is Boomer.
It's too. It's too powerful, Michael.
I don't think Cryptic Command's good enough in the current game.
It's too powerful.
I'm not a Modern expert. It could be. Maybe it is good. I don't know. But I don't think it sees play.
It doesn't. I know this. I looked at Modern decks recently and it sees no play. But you know, it did back in my day.
Yeah, back in your day.
It was too powerful. But yeah.
I am curious how my drafts will look once I am no longer in silver, because Magic Arena has this wonderful thing where every time you don't play the game for 6 months, you drop back to bronze 5 or whatever the bottom of bronze is.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta play, climb back up. So
yeah, I think as long as you avoid blue-red, I think you're in good shape. I've even had good blue-white decks. A lot of people are really low on blue-white. But I think I had 3 Plume Creed mentors, which is 1 blue-white, flying 2/3. Whenever Plume Creed mentor or another creature you control flying enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control without flying. So you play your first one and gets a +1/+1 counter. You play your second one and then you put 2 +1/+1 counters on your creature without flying. You play your third one and then you're putting 3 +1/+1. Then you play, and then for every creature with flying, you repeat. You just spiral out of control. Sweet.
Yeah, I don't think you even need the second one. That just sounds really good.
Yeah. I think the blue-white deck is not ideal, but I think it's fine. Like, I think as long as you get the pieces, it seems like a reasonable deck to me. Funnily enough, the one that I dislike more that you've now drafted twice is Demir's, the blue-black rats deck.
Yeah, there's not very many rats in my deck. I feel like I am blue cards and all the good blue cards and black removal spells.
Yeah, it's a classic combination.
Yeah, the only rat in my deck that I have right now is, I guess I've got Mind Drill Assailant, which is just a 4-mana 2/5 with that surveils if it sits around. It's just like filler, like 23rd playable or something. And then I've got the blue black gold card Tide Caller Mentor, which is just a 3-mana 3/3 menace that if you have threshold when it enters, you can bounce something, but that doesn't come up. It's just a 3-mana 3/3 menace, which is okay. Filler also.
Yeah. You don't have my favorite Dimir or like rat card is the uncommon Mind Whisker. Do you have any Mind Whiskers in your deck? I love this guy. He's 2 in a blue, 3/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1. Threshold, as long as there are 7 more cards in your graveyard, creatures your opponents control get -1, -0. I had 3 of these in play at one point. It was sick.
Did all their creatures get -3, -0?
Yeah. It was real good.
I do actually have that guy in this deck, so I've got my deck pulled up on the side. I didn't have him in my first deck though.
Yeah, I just like if nothing else, I like the beginning of your upkeep surveil one. Like the free surveil is really powerful.
Yeah.
You got any Spellgyres? I like Spellgyre quite a bit.
What does Spellgyre do?
It's 2 blue counter targets. It has it's a modal spell with 2 modes.
I had one in my first
surveil
deck.
2 and then draw 2 cards. I like the card quite a bit.
Yeah, I had one in my first deck, and then this deck I took something over it. But that card is sweet with Daring Wave Rider as well, where you like the first time you cast it, you counter something, and then you play your 4-drop or your 6-drop to surveil 2 or draw 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's really strong. Well, it feels really strong. I don't know if it's actually really strong compared to what other people are doing, but
yeah.
And in my silver games, it has felt very strong.
Yeah, I think my rude awakening came with blue. I was drafting over the weekend, and I got like a second pick Shoreline Lunar, which is 1 in a blue, 1/1 uncommon. Shoreline Looter can't be blocked. Threshold, whenever Shoreline Looter deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a card. Unless 7 or more cards in your graveyard, then you just draw a card.
Okay.
So it's just a 1 mana or 2 mana 1/1. When you have Threshold on hit, draw a card, can't be blocked. I was like, this card's like, I've seen this card do really cool things. I went blue white, got some Plume Creed mentors. I was like, I'm going to put some counters on this thing. I have my 2-mana unblockable guy, and my opponent was like, that's cool. Here's like 15 damage on like turn 5, and I was like, I'll attack you for 1 unblockable.
Yeah, that card does sound very, very slow, and it doesn't give you any defensive value. So I could see it being being rough.
But it's on hit draw card. I like drawing
it's on
cards.
hit loot a card until you get threshold.
Yeah. Oh well.
The card I do like, the 2-mana, the 2-drop blue creature I have liked is Thought Shucker. It's a 1 blue for a 1/3 rat rogue. Oh, I do have rats. Okay. And threshold, you can pay 1 blue to put a +1/+1 counter on a draw card.
Once per turn.
Once, period.
Only once. Oh yeah.
Once, period.
Yeah.
But I found it just like a 2-drop, a 1/3 is fine. It's not great, but later in the game you can kind of get your card back and get a 2/4, which is pretty solid.
I think I like the Night Whirl Hermit, the 2 blue, 1/4 vigilance, and then threshold. It gets +1/+1, can't be blocked, so then it turns into a 2/4 unblockable vigilance for 3, which is pretty good.
I just don't care if my guys are unblockable. I'm going to outcard everybody. That's my game plan. I got a bunch of the Pearl of Wisdom, the Otter Divinations, and Mind Spirals. That's been my...
You got any Dazzling Denials or Long Rivers Pool for some counterspell action?
The counter spells. Nope, no counter spells in this deck. My last deck had a few.
You have Spell Dryer. You're lying to me.
No, my first deck had Spell Dryer. My second deck does not.
Okay, fair.
My first deck had the blue counter target creature spell, and you can gift them something and counter anything instead of creature spell.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was a fish or a card, but you had to gift them something.
I like the Bats deck a lot. I like the Orzhov like Bats gain and drain strategy a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty hard to pull off and requires a lot of pieces, though. Unfortunately, I think you definitely need a couple, or at least one Starscape Cleric, which is an uncommon. It's 1 blue, 2/1. It has Offspring for 2 black, flying
1 black.
2 black. So for 5.
So no, what's its base cost? You said 1 blue.
1 black. Sorry.
Okay.
So it's a 2/1 flying, can't block. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. So then you can like Offspring it. So then whenever you gain life, your opponent loses 2 life. And then there's like a bunch of like gain life effects scattered across black and white.
Yeah. Yeah, that card does sound pretty good. I saw some of the bats. You said bats are the black-white ones?
Yeah, bats are black and white.
Yeah, there's one that it's like a 1/3 that drains when it attacks, and then I have a 3-mana 2/3 in my blue-black deck that when it attacks you gain a life.
Mm-hmm. That's the hybrid mana one.
Yeah.
The other uncommon, well, the multicolor uncommon for bats is Star Seer Mentor, which is 3 black-white, 3/5 flying vigilance. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, target opponent loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card.
It's cool to see that effect come back. I think there was a card back when I played. It was like black X, and your opponent does this X times where they either lose 3 life, sacrifice a permanent, or discard a card.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool that they've kind of like kept that you get to choose which thing, but all these things are like taxing you pretty heavily.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I think I'm just not a Gruul gamer. I think I should just avoid the Gruul archetype. I think I'm fine with every other color combination, actually. Maybe not Izzet. I think I'm going to try to actively avoid Izzet and Gruul. So I guess I should lean away from red as a base.
Yeah, it sounds like you just don't like red cards.
The red cards are... The interesting thing is I don't hate intrinsically the baseline red cards, a lot of them. So I guess a common I kind of do. But I like the red uncommons quite a bit in the rares. So I kind of get trapped because I think in my last... I went into raccoons, but I picked one, a Manifold Mouse, which is 1 red, 1 2, and has Offspring 2. So for 4, you can get 2 copies of this guy. And at the beginning of your upkeep, or beginning of combat on your turn, target mouse you control gains your choice of double strike or trample until end of turn. So you get like 2 targets for your mice effects. Mm-hmm. And so like getting double strike and trample is like really powerful. I was like, oh, I've had good success with that guy. Oh, I had that guy in my Broken Boros deck too. If you just name a like Broken Rare Mouse, I probably had it in my Broken Mouse deck.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I like that guy quite a bit. But then mice weren't open. I never saw like any mice, and then all the red cards I were getting were like raccoons based. So I didn't even want to play it in like my end of the deck. I was sad. I did have a Takeout of Trash though. That's a solid red card. That's a fine baseline red card, I think.
I think Take Out the Trash is quite good. This is the 2-mana instant. I picked one of these early before I realized that was blue-black and not black-red or Grixis or something. Mm-hmm. And it's just the 2-mana instant, deal 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker. And if you control a raccoon, you can discard a card to draw a card. Rummage.
Yeah. And red also, I think, has just the best 1-drops, which kind of suckers me in sometimes. So you got at uncommon, you have Heartfire Hero, which is 1 mana, 1/1 Valiant. Whenever Heartfire Hero becomes the target of spell or ability, for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So it's just like a 1 mana, 1/1 that turns into like a 2/2, 3/3, 4/4. It's like you target it more and more. And when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So it's just like, it's like a beater that grows and then deals the damage on the way out a lot of the time.
Yeah, the difference between Valiant and the mechanic that we had forever ago when I played Heroic, where Heroic you have to target them with a spell, but Valiant you can target with a spell or ability. It's so much easier to trigger, especially with like equipment or creatures' abilities. It just comes up a lot more.
Yeah. And then the other 1 mana card that I really like in red, it's a rare though, it's called Hired Claw. And it's a 1 mana 1/2. Whenever you attack with one or more lizards, and he's a lizard mercenary, Hired Claw deals 1 damage to target opponent. And then for 1 in a red, put a +1/+1 counter on Hired Claw. Activate only if an opponent lost life this turn and only once per turn. So you play him on turn 1, turn 2, you can attack, ping him, and then immediately put a +1/+1 counter on him. And then you're attacking for 2/3, and then you can just repeat that process and he scales.
Yeah, makes sense.
I like that guy. So both those cards, they sucker me in a lot. I like those guys. They lure me. But then I don't like a lot of the other red cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't. I don't know most of the uncommons and rares of colors other than blue. I feel like I just know a lot of the blue ones because I keep getting them.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I played a lot with like the blue-black, like. In fact, I don't think I've ever even seen this guy. The Vren, the Relentless, 2 blue-black, 3/4, War 2. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile instead. Beginning of each end step, create X 1/1 black rat creature tokens. With this creature, gets +1/+1 for each other rat you control, where X is the number of creatures your opponent controls that were exiled this turn. It's not very good. That explains why.
Yeah. In this draft, I actually opened that guy and just took a black removal spell over it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, the blue-black multicolor cards are not really where I want to be.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Which, in red-blue, it kind of, like, I don't like the uncommon, and they have the Planeswalker with Ral, but I like if I'm playing, like, either a base blue or a base red deck, but not necessarily I really like Tempest Angler, which is 1 hybrid blue-red, hybrid blue-red, 2/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Tempest. I really like scaling cards. I don't know if you noticed this yet, but I really like a card where I can play it, and then it's going to get better as I do my game plan. I like that effect. I don't have to do a lot of thinking. I'm just going to play my cards, and the card that I played is just going to get better and better and better and better, you know?
Mm-hmm. You like the cards that say, you gotta use a removal spell on me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The green-black one also says that as well. The Corpseberry Cultivator, which is 1 black-green hybrid, 2/3. Beginning of combat each turn, you may forage, and whenever you forage, put a +1/+1 counter on Corpseberry Cultivator. Like, this card can spiral out of control too. Slower, but yeah.
And this will trigger even if other things forage, right?
Yeah.
That does seem very good. Fairly good, at least.
Mm-hmm.
You do need lots of cards getting into your discard, but yeah, it can get big.
Yeah. I think the saddest thing is that there's like the EDH cards that are just mucking up my draft a lot.
What are the EDH cards?
The 3 mana guys. Are the 3-color things, like Balin the Haymaker. I got trapped with this guy one time. I was like, oh, I'm base green-white. I can splash red and play my 4/3. I got some tokens flying around. And he's like, So he's red, green, white, 4/3. Tap 2, untap tokens you control. Add 1 mana of any color. Tap 3, untap tokens you control. Draw a card. Tap 4, untap tokens you control. Put 3+1+ counters on Balin the Haymaker. Gains trample 10 a turn. So I was like, ooh, I got tokens. I can do Balin. And then I would play Balin. I'd have like one other token on the battlefield. I'm like, oh, this guy sucks.
Yeah. On top of like the ability not really seeming like it's designed for the limited format, there's also just not good color fixing like I talked about earlier. So it's pretty hard to play 3-color cards, especially 3-color cards that you want to play like early in the game.
Yeah. Green does have the 2 and a green, make a food or whatever. Get a land out of your deck, right? Heaped Harvest, 2 green. When Heaped Harvest enters and when you sacrifice it, you may search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. And then 2 and sacrifice it, you gain 3 life.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. I like this card quite a bit when I was playing against bad people. And then I started playing against good people. And then I was like, oh, this card's so slow.
Yeah. You really need to be doing like something pretty good on your first 2 turns to like buy you the time to play a 3-mana Rampant Growth, or you need to be doing something very, very good on that turn after you play the 3-mana Rampant Growth, some very, very high impact 5-drop.
Yeah. Do you have any gift cards in your deck? Let's talk about gifting. How do you feel about gifts?
I have Mind Spiral. My first draft also had, it was a 3-mana black removal spell that said kill a creature and you lose 2 life unless you gift them a food, then you don't lose 2 life.
Yeah.
That one was great. I almost always gifted them a food because I was not trying to win by killing them. I just was like, have a food. I'd rather have, I'll give you 2 mana, gain 3 life so that I don't lose 2 life. That's a good deal. If I could have us both just gain 3 life over and over again, I would do it a lot of the time with the deck that I'm drafting.
It's like have that secret bat synergy where you want to lose the life, so your bats all trigger.
Oh, that makes sense. That is a pretty good synergy, but this card is just like 3 mana kill something, which is very good in limited.
Yeah, at instant speed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I give my opponents gifts like 90% of the time. I want to know if that's like right or wrong. If I'm like over gifting my opponents.
It depends a lot on the card effect. Like the rare Wrath you talked about, you should usually be gifting your opponent a card because getting your best creature that got Wrath the way back is usually better than a random card they're going to get.
Right.
I think you said that you were gifting them a fish most of the time when you were casting Mind Spiral, which that feels a little bit weird to me because the decks that want to be casting Mind Spiral are not like 5 mana draw 3 other decks that are trying to like clunk up the board and stall things out. They're not trying to like aggressively tap your opponent's stuff down. But if you're gonna die if you don't give them a fish because they've got some evasive thing that you just need to stall, then it makes sense.
It was like usually on like a flyer or something like that. It's like I'll tap your flyer, or like your beater or whatever. Like you have like a 1/1 and like a 4/3 or something like that, and my board's like a 1/1 and a 2/1 or something like that. Then like I'll tap their beater so I have more time.
Yeah, usually you want to be using like those kind of tap and stun things effects offensively because you get like 2 turns of their guy being tapped on defense, but only 1 turn of their guy being tapped on offense. So because you'll tap their guy and they'll have a stun counter. So then on their next turn, it doesn't untap and it loses a stun counter. Sorry, you play the card, you tap their guy, you get an attack. Then on their turn, that doesn't untap because of the stun counter. Then you can attack again before, and then it'll untap. So they only miss out on 1 attack with it versus missing out on 2 block steps.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Yeah. I will say the guy that he's not a gift, but Splash Lasser, which is an uncommon blue card, which is 3 and a blue, 3/3, offspring, 1 and a blue. When this creature enters, tap 1 target creature and put a stun counter on it. I win a lot of games with that guy. I'm just like, I get to 6 mana, I got some idiots on the board, I offspring him.
And you tap 2 of their things for an extra turn.
Bounce him or flicker him or somehow tap down their guys again, beat again.
Yeah.
That win the game.
I think that card is quite good because it has offspring. I think without offspring, it'd just be like a pretty mopey card, but
I agree.
The 6 mana, the kicker mode on it's very, very strong.
Yeah. Everything's kicker.
Yeah. Everything is kicker.
Okay. I'm curious how Sealed plays.
Yeah, we're both planning to do the Arena Open this weekend, so we should try to get some Sealed games in before then. Day 1's Sealed, right? Or is it all draft?
It's at Day 1 Sealed.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we can do some online Sealed pools. Figure it out.
How do you do that?
I think Arena just has Sealed events, right? It usually does.
I don't know. I didn't see it.
I
But
will
there's no
take
like
a
sealed deck generator. Could we do that? Is there like a
I'm sure there is.
and then play on a TTS app or something? Or we got an LGS. An LGS around us probably sells Boom Burrow. We can just go buy 6 Packy Doos.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure we'll figure something out.
What are you doing Friday?
What am I doing Friday? A
Yeah.
bunch of yard work.
Let's clear our schedules and go buy some Bloom Burrow packs and play some sealed at our LGS. It'll be fun.
I don't know if I'm doing that. I really don't like
Paper
owning
cards.
physical cards. Yeah. If I could play in all the card game tournaments, I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast, but if I could play in all the card game tournaments and never have to deal with cards, that would be like the life. Because I love how card games play. I love all the strategy and decision making. I love the deck building process, but like managing a collection, owning cards, getting cards, buying and selling cards, everything about the cards themselves, other than like the game part of them, I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah, you saw for the last 2-3 weeks you've been coming over to when we've been playing sorcery. I just have cards all over my pool table at the moment because I've been slowly sorting them, but really they're just sitting there in a pile because I have very limited time and I don't really want to spend hours upon hours upon hours sitting there sorting through cards. But I need to do it because the reason why I'm sorting all my Flesh and Blood cards is because I bought 2 copies of Balance of Justice. So like I didn't know I already had a copy of Balance of Justice, and then I bought a copy of Balance of Justice, so I spent like the extra $130 for no reason. I was like, I should organize my collection again. It's time.
You won't do it again.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, most of the set by next week, we can talk about maybe limited first impressions for what Rosetta next week. There's so many card games, dude. There's so many card games.
Yeah, for sure. I think that we're both going to Florida in a week and a half. So next week we can kind of talk about what we're expecting, what our initial impressions are, what we're planning to play in the sealed format. We're just going to force a hero in sealed. That's definitely how that works.
That's how the first Aria set worked. You just forced Briar, and whoever was better at piloting Briar in your seal pool, you got there.
That's true. We don't have very much for the set yet, but I would be surprised if that's the case. I feel like LSS has gotten a lot better at designing sealed formats. I think the last 2 sealed formats have been quite good.
Yeah, the capped at 30 cards. Not that matters so much in the Briar format, but most importantly, there's no Rosetta Thorn. So the weapons that they previewed so far are not Rosetta Thorn.
Yeah, they've definitely toned back limited weapons quite a bit. I think the best one that I remember having anytime recently is Mandible Claw.
Yes. Mandible Claw, but you can only play one you can only play one because you could theoretically somehow play Reinar, but
no. Yeah, you could play 2. You just had to register Reinar.
Yeah, and then you had to register Reinar.
Yeah, so I feel like I've kind of taken like mostly a break from playing card games competitively for a little while. I haven't been doing a lot, but getting back into it, playing Magic this weekend, playing Rosetta Limited next weekend, and then also going to Worlds in 2 months. I'm really looking forward to it. And
booking a trip to Atlanta.
We'll see about that one. I've got a lot of time between now. We got
the living. I'm honestly also excited for the Living Legend calling in Chicago as well in December.
Yeah. I'm planning to go to Portland. Also, my brother lives out in Portland, so I'm going to go to the calling out there.
I was going to go. Oh, now you're making me want to go to Portland. I canceled Portland to go to Atlanta because I was like, I don't need to go see Wesley in Portland. I can go to Atlanta. And then now I was like, if you're going, you could stay with your family over there, and then I could stay with Wesley.
That is my plan. I'm staying with my brother.
We'll talk to the wife about it. We'll see.
Okay. It's I feel like there weren't like any U.S. callings for so long. They were just like these majors that were too close together and no callings. And now end of the year's coming up. There's a bunch of callings happening. There's Worlds. Just a good time to be playing card games.
Yeah. Now that we're 50 minutes in and nobody's listening anyways, Not that anybody listened to begin with, but I'm really curious to see how the return of this Magic Spotlight series will like affect calling schedules, since they're both hosted through Star City Games. I think somebody, I forget who, somewhere said like they hope that there's a calling weekend on the same weekend as like a Spotlight series, and I can't ever see that happening, and I actively don't want that happening, because I feel like if a calling is doing super well and the Spotlight series is doing super well, there's only so much room in a venue, and I don't really want one event to cannibalize the other.
Sure. I think that it would not surprise me if we end up getting both happening at the same venue. I know back when Flesh and Blood was first like growing, our early callings a lot of the time had Magic events happening. As like there was like,
yeah, but
I think
nobody was playing back like Magic then. Like I remember I had to pull up this text. It was from like 2 or 3 years ago. There was like a Magic 20 or 30K or something like that at one of the Flesh and Blood events. It had 200 people. And I texted one of my old Magic friends. I was like, "Are you playing this 200 person 30K?" And he was like, "No, I wish." And I was like, "Oh,
yeah, that's pretty good EV. 200 person 30K.
Yeah, Magic had nobody playing it for a long time. I wonder how popular the Spotlight series is going to be, because like, for those who weren't around back in Magic's heyday, Magic tournaments used to like easily clear like 1,200. Like Star City Games got like 1,200, and like Grand Prix were like 2K, right?
I don't know if SCG Opens definitely average significantly less than 1,200 people. I think they average like 500 to 800 people, but that's like the size of like some of our bigger callings in Flesh and Blood, which is pretty crazy. And then Grand Prix were like, I think the average Grand Prix was more than 2,000 people, at least in like the peak time. There was like probably a year where the average Grand Prix was like 3K.
I remember they were so big. The one in I was at the one in Vegas where it was so many people they had to split into 2 stupid Grand Prix.
That was a software issue that I think they fixed since then, but that was like there's not the only reason they had to split it into 2 Grand Prix was because the software couldn't handle it.
Yeah, but I was there. I was in one of them. I day 2'd. Yeah. I like top 64 or something.
I think that was the first Modern Masters Limited.
Second
Modern Masters Limited. Okay.
Yeah. So I was so excited. I had a Karn and I had a Bitter Blossom in my first draft, and I was like X2, and I was like, I can't lose. I got Karn and Bitter Blossom, and I went 0-3, and I was so sad.
That is sad. Bitter Blossom is a really powerful card.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the Karn did.
It's the 7-mana Karn. You know what that did.
Oh, I know what that guy. I played Tron.
Yeah. I was about to say, you know what that
the 3-mana guy.
Yeah. No, the 7-mana guy.
You tap on 3 lands, a mine, a power plant, and a tower, and you play your 3-mana Planeswalker.
Yeah. I pulled up I remember this event, Grand Prix Richmond in 2013, 2014. With 4,303 people. That was the first time like the event like hard capped, and like I posted on my Twitter account, like that was when I learned the lesson of, if you're going to an event, register for
Rosetta.
Yes, register for the event before you fly across the country or travel across the country and book hotels, like, because you never know. Like that was just the one where I was like, some event could just spike in popularity, and you don't want to be having all these travel arrangements and just locked out of the event because you did everything else but register.
Makes sense. I'm going to do that once we hop off here. Get registered for Rosetta. I booked my hotel. I booked my flight. Haven't registered.
Yeah. But a lot of these, in the 2013, basically going forward, average attendance was like 12 to 1,800, it looks like.
For Grand Prix?
Yeah. Okay. With some huge spikes here or there, depending on like timing and formats and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think attendance probably fell at some point when they announced Pro League stuff, because your pro points became pointless, and that made a lot of inspiring people not have a reason to go to Grand Prix anymore. Aspiring pros.
Where is this one? Detroit. Was it Detroit? Yeah. So towards the end, yeah, once they got rid of pro points, I remember going to this one in 2018 with Ben, because we both day 2'd and like made like top 64, and like so like, but there were no pro points, so it didn't like, it was just like a little bit of money, and we were so depressed and it was only 706 people.
Jeez.
But here I am playing Magic again. Woo! What's old is new again, baby.
Yeah. What's old is new again, I guess. Bloomberg, what's it called? Bloomborough has been fun in the 1.5 drafts I've played.
Bloomberg. That just got me. That's all. That's the Financial Times. It's just a frog investing in stocks.
I'll buy the otter meme coin or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's been fun. I think the next Magic set in true Magic fashion comes out in like 2 weeks though. So like, oh well.
So this is like the end of format arena limited open.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We're coming in late with our first impressions came at the last.
We can name it Magic's Bloomberg set limited impressions.
I think I'm going to go with Michael and Roger's limited discussion featuring special guest Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
Magic the Gathering.
It does complete our special guest month.
It does. It gets through our last arc of special guests.
All the great flesh and blood important people. Not all of them, but many great flesh and blood important people. And then for the 4th week, we're like, here's Magic the Gathering. All right. So anything else before we wrap this up?
I'm all out. I'm
right.
Good to end it before we go any more off the rails.
I'll let you do the honors as is tradition.
Okay. Well, the next time you're playing with cute bunny rabbits and mice, always remember, mind your manners.